What's up, everyone? Aaron Murray here. Another late night edition of Snaps. And my goodness, if you weren't watching college football on Saturday, I don't know what the hell you were doing because you missed out on one of the most exciting weekends of football that I've ever been a part of. It was from the minute we said go. I mean, go back to even Thursday night, that game between West Virginia and their way and the way they won that game really was an indication of what we were going to get this weekend. And let's start with the big one first. Obviously, let's go to Rocky Top. Let's go to Knoxville and Tennessee getting the big monkey off their back in a big fashion there, beating Alabama 52-49. And the one thing we knew about Tennessee heading into the season was the leadership and the especially from a guy like Hendon. So with all the COVID years, with the red shirts and all that, Hendon's 24 years old. He's a mature quarterback. He's played a lot of football and just in general, a mature human being that wasn't going to shy away from this sort of opportunity, kind of shy away from the brand of Alabama football and looked really darn good. And it's funny because, I mean, we talk about, Hendon doesn't make a lot of mistakes. He's a guy that takes care of the football. And it just seemed tonight, every time that Tennessee made a mistake, Hendon throws an interception. Wasn't all his fault. There was pressure in his face, kind of gets backed up. Will Anderson did a great job off the end. Deep dig route coming from left to right. Guy was open, but it's kind of hard to get that arm coming down. Ball sails, interception from the safety. And what does he do? Comes back and leads a touchdown drive. Tennessee later in the game, turnover once again. Alabama kind of seems like, okay, man, they got a couple stops. Alabama's going to somehow, as we all know, find a way to win this football game. Tennessee kind of puts back that turnover, goes down and scores again. The maturity and confidence from Tennessee to not back down when adversity sets. I think that to me was is how Alabama beats you, because a lot of teams come out swinging, man. Like you're facing Alabama, for goodness sakes. Like you're gonna come out there in the first and second quarter, and you're gonna empty your tank. Whether it's that your OCDC is gonna have the game plan with, whether it's trick plays, maybe something on teams. Defensively, you're gonna bring in all your sort of blitzes, everything to try to confuse Bryce and the offense, whatever. Like you are literally emptying the tank, and you kind of get worn out there in the second half, or the minute adversity kind of starts to strike, you kind of say, like, damn, it's Alabama. We gave it our best, but it's Alabama. And for a lot of teams that, Tennessee once again tonight goes up in a big fashion, 21-7 there at the end of the first quarter. You're up, I think, 28-20 heading into halftime. And then all of a sudden the second half starts and Alabama scores 15 points and takes the lead in the second half. 90% of teams, if not 95 plus percent of teams at that point would throw in the towel. It's Nick Saban. Even shit where I'm watching the game here I'm at my parents' house, and my mom goes, "Well, Alabama won the game. Alabama won." Everyone thought, Tennessee fans and everyone thought that, hey, we're all fat and happy in the first half. They can't stop us. We're getting a couple stops on defense. Things are rolling right now for Tennessee. And as soon as Alabama got the league, my mom goes, "Well, I know this story." I think that everyone watching that game kind of felt the same way. We know this narrative. Alabama was going to come back. Alabama was going to win. And it looked like that for a little bit. But Hendon Hooker, man, and Jalen Hyatt, who has been absolutely tremendous. Let's not forget, their best receiver, Cedric Tillman, has been out for weeks now. One of the best receivers in America. And Jalen Hyatt's a guy that, had a lot of promise, a lot of hype, has really not met those expectations. And then all of a sudden this season has really blossomed. And I had them a few weeks ago, and I, was talking to the coaching staff about that, and just his attention to detail, his dedication to the weight room to get a little bit more physical, to be able to break some tackles. We knew he was a speedy receiver on the outside that could take the top off of defense. So, his emergent along with Keen has played well over the past few weeks. Obviously, Brew McCoy, not his statistically best game this week, has played extremely well over the past 3 weeks, and they're really bullish on him. So the fact that they're able to have this kind of production without their best receiver in Cedric Tillman is scary. It is a message to the rest of the country that I don't know how you're going to stop this offense. Not only did they throw the ball for 385 yards, but they also ran it for 182 yards. Jalen Wright was doing his thing. Jabari Small was a little bit banged up. And then Hendon Hooker had another 56 yards on the ground rushing. It was masterful in offense. And I'm kind of walking away from this game once again saying, who the hell is going to stop Tennessee in this offense, especially when they are fully healthy on that side of the football? Flipping over to the other side with Alabama, what can you say about Bryce, man? Bryce, the situations that he was put into tonight, the ability to get out of those situations with his legs, to extend the play, to make guys miss. I tweeted out at one point, it honestly felt like Bryce was going against high school players because it just seems like he was dead to rights. It's third and long, and he's backing up, he's backpedaling, he's rolling to his left, he's rolling to his right. It seemed like 3 or 4 guys were there. He'd stop on a dime. He would buy just a second or two or even longer and find a way to get the ball off and get a completion to convert whatever situation he was in. He is special. And I know they lost tonight. I know it's almost impossible to win a Heisman back-to-back season, but he is one of the best players in the country, if not the best players in the country, and he deserves to continue to be in the conversation for Heisman finalists. He deserves to be in New York at the end of the year. There are very, very few players, if anyone, that is a better football player than Bryce Young, and he continues to prove it week in, week out. A big problem for Alabama. Obviously Bryce did his thing, Gibbs did his thing. It's the penalties. Go back to the game versus Texas. It was sloppy. Most penalties ever in a Saban Alabama coach football team that we've ever seen. And tonight we saw that pop up once again. 17 penalties, 130 yards. 17 penalties, 130 yards. When you're facing a football team like Tennessee, when you're facing an offense like Tennessee, you cannot commit penalties on the road. So that's some worrying stuff, man. Alabama right now, and I look at some of the games that we've had this season, some of the issues we've had on our secondary, some of the issues we've had with discipline. I'm a little bit concerned. At the end of the day, too, you know what? Listen, they're in the driver's seat still. If they can win out, and it's not an easy schedule, they got to face Mississippi State next week. You get a bye week. You have to go to LSU, who we'll talk about that game against Florida. Looks good. Then you have to go on the road to Ole Miss, Austin Peay, and then finish off the season home versus Florida. So that 3-game stretch, those next 3 games, you could lose one of them. And we've talked about, and we know kind of the path to success and the path to the playoffs does not look favorably on a team with 2 losses. Not one team has ever made it to the playoffs. And sure, they may run the risk of not even making it to the SEC championship game if they lose another game this season in SEC play. So, Nick Saban's going to get those boys right, hopefully this week. But I just think right now we've seen issues this season. Maybe Alabama is just not that good. Should have lost to Texas if Quinn Ewers was playing. Probably should have lost to A&M last week. That the just horrendous play call by Jimbo at the end of the football game. Alabama sneaks out at home, 24-20, and then you give up 52 points to Tennessee and you lose that game 52-49. I mean, we could be talking about an Alabama team at the moment that could have 3 losses. So I don't know if the excuse last year was it was a rebuilding year. I want to know what the excuse is this year, because this is literally a football team that could have 3 losses right now. They don't, and good teams find ways to win. I get that. But right now, this does not look like a championship caliber football team. And that was a big blow to Nick Saban and fellows. But congratulations to Tennessee. They better be partying all damn night, and they deserve it. That is a really good football team, one of the best teams in the country. I think the question everyone's going to be having is, where does Tennessee end up after this weekend? Do they jump into maybe the top 3? I kind of think so. You tell me a better resume than what Tennessee has put on at the moment. Beating Pittsburgh, beating Florida, beating the living crap out of LSU last week. LSU's 5-2. You went into LSU, embarrassed them 40-13, and then probably the best one of the season, beating Alabama this afternoon tonight, 52-49. So it would not surprise me if Tennessee gets some first place votes. It would not surprise me at all if Tennessee is ranked in the top 3 when it comes to AP poll on Monday. So we shall see that one. Another big win. Our Trojan boys, T-Bob. I try to warn them. I try to tell Trojan boys go down in dramatic fashion against Utah at Utah, 43-42. Did I mention it was a hell of a day of college football for those who missed out? I hope you had some DVR. I hope you can go back and watch these games because they were freaking awesome. Utah, man, struggled a little bit early at times, but these two quarterbacks for both teams were phenomenal. Great quarterback play all day. Last week was a little bit suspect. The quarterbacks, not this week. Caleb Williams, I talk about Bryce Young being special in and outside the pocket. Caleb freaking Williams is a beast. He is a hell of a quarterback. My man is unstoppable, and just in and outside the pocket was making plays. I mean, same thing like I said about Bryce. Like when you think he's dead, when he's surrounded by 3 or 4 defensive players, his ability to be a magician and get out of those situations and create plays with his legs, and then has a hell of an arm. I think I told T-Bob this a few weeks ago, and I hate making comparisons to NFL guys because everyone is their own unique player, but he reminds me a lot of Patrick Mahomes. The way he creates in the pocket, his arm angles, his arm strength, just the way he looks and moves on the field. I was like, that's Patrick Mahomes 2.0. It is scary, but Cam Rising is a stud, and Utah found a way to win the football game. We knew it was going to be tough sledding for USC. They did their thing on offense, just could not hold up on the defensive end of the football. And Dalton Kincaid, I had the opportunity to cover him a couple times at San Diego State, the tight end transfer there. 16 catches for 234 yards and 1 touchdown. My favorite position of offenses nowadays. Love receivers, love explosive receivers. I love offenses like Tennessee. I get it. But when you have a tight end like Kincaid, like my boy Brock Bowers at UGA, when you can match them up against whether it's slot corners who are smaller, against safeties or linebackers that are inferior in coverage, you are going to win that matchup over and over and over again. And my man, 16 catches, 234, went bonkers on that USC defense. And what has USC done all year? They've gotten turnovers on defense. That has been their calling card. Tonight, only 1 turnover. I said it, and you can check the socials that we posted on. USC was going to live and die by that sword of can you get 2, 3, 4 turnovers a game in order for that defense to continue to play like we've seen them play all year. And if they didn't, what would happen? Well, they didn't tonight. Only 1 turnover, gave up 562 total yards in that football game. Also, the big stat we want to see, time of possession. Utah had the ball. Utah was the #1 team in the Pac-12 for time of possession. Heading into this game, 33 minutes of possession time on average. Tonight, 32 minutes of possession time to 28 minutes there for USC. They had the yards. They took care of the football, and a huge win for Utah. That's been kind of reeling a little bit. It's not been the best of seasons for Utah. You lose the first game of the season at Florida. You lose a week ago to UCLA. Kind of got embarrassed in that game, honestly. You got out physicaled by the Bruins. And then you come home, a very emotional game, honoring some of their teammates. And they found a way to 2-point conversion, man. So big shout out to the Utes. Huge win. Gutsy call on the 2-point. Usually you go for 2 points if you're on the road and you're in that situation. They said, no. We're going for it. We're at home. We got the momentum. We got the quarterback. And Cam Rising found a way to get into the end zone. Big blow to USC, man. And UCLA, top team in the Pac-12. Good thing I kind of shifted my team before this weekend, and T-Bob is stuck with him, Trojan boy. So big win. Another big win over this weekend, Michigan. I was shocked here. I thought Penn State was a good football team. I still think Penn State is a good football team, but they got their ass whooped. You want to talk about getting out physicaled at the line of scrimmage? Absolutely embarrassing what Michigan was able to do running the football. 400. This is not total yards. This is just rushing yards. 418 rushing yards. 418 rushing yards given up by Penn State. Embarrassed. They got embarrassed. Their offense was embarrassing to watch. Their defensive line was plain pitiful. My big worry in this game was JJ McCarthy. I mean, could he stretch the ball vertically down the field? He was efficient. He's been kind of the same JJ McCarthy we've seen all year. Dinking and dunking, safe passes, took care of the football for the majority of it. Did have the pick six, 17 to 24, 145. But I mean, when you run the ball for 418 freaking yards, you don't have to ask your quarterback to push the ball vertically down the field. And when your defense plays the way they played, only giving up 111 yards rushing, only giving up 157 yards passing, Sean Clifford, 7 of 19, you're going to win a lot of football games. So, Michigan to me looked like the same Michigan team we saw last year, which if I'm Ohio State, I'm a little bit worried. They're physical at the line of scrimmage. The offensive line's balling out. We talk about Heisman, the Heisman conversation. Blake Corum has been Heisman-esque all season long. This game, 166 yards, another 2 touchdowns. He better be in that conversation as they continue football games. And this defense continues to kick ass on that side of the football. It is a physical football team. It is a mean football team. It is a very dangerous football team. And right now they're 7-0, 4-0 in the conference. And you look at their schedule going forward: Michigan State, Rutgers, Nebraska, and then you got to face 2 tough teams on the end. Illinois is playing great football, another win, and then at Ohio State to finish the season off, looking like that's going to be 2 11-0 football teams facing each other to see who's going to go to the Big Ten championship game. Most likely, if Michigan goes, they will have to probably reface Illinois in that championship game. So, Michigan, congratulations. Y'all kicked some freaking ass, and y'all look physical and dominant. And if I'm a Michigan fan, I'm kind of saying bring on Ohio State. And it's 2 very different brands of football. One obviously is a lot more finesse, one throwing the football, and the other one is just a nasty, grounded out, pounded out, beat you, knock you in the face. And guess what? The nastier, more physical football team won that matchup last year. So that should give you confidence if you're a Wolverine fan that you can continue to kick some butt this season. Another big win. And boy, oh boy, am I happy to this ball game go into overtime, or actually 2 overtime. TCU was looking kind of bad there in the first half. Oklahoma State was absolutely rolling. Spencer Sanders was doing his thing. They were up big, 28-13 at halftime. And my boy Max Duggan just could not find anything. Just was off. And I was a little bit surprised, man, because y'all know what I've been saying about Oklahoma State and that secondary, not very good. They have struggled all year, one of the worst secondaries in all of college football. And they kind of showed up and played on the road. They actually showed up and were playing well there in the first half. And even heading into the fourth quarter, I mean, look, the game was kind of out of hand. It was 30-16, down 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. TCU went on a run, scored 14 points, put that thing into overtime. Max Duggan started to feel himself a little bit. Spencer Sanders with a horrific interception, kind of that monster poked itself out a little bit. He ended up having a terrible second half, only going 16-36 there for the football game. And TCU found a way to win in overtime, 6-0. And that's a heck of a win. And my kind of thoughts on Oklahoma State was I thought this was a good football team, but a team that was definitely going to see some adversity this year, maybe lose 2 or 3 games. I was thinking a 9-3, 10-2 team, just because I don't believe in the defense. And I like Spencer Sanders. I don't love Spencer Sanders. It's a good team, not a great team. And you saw them get exposed there in the second half and in overtime. Horned Frogs, number 1 team in the Big 12 right now. Huge win. Max Duggan's, man, maybe not this was a game for him to continue to get into that Heisman conversation. He did not perform in a way that would get him into that Heisman conversation. So he'll have more opportunities. TCU, just like everyone else in the Big 12, is going to continue to have more and more ranked games. Huge game next week versus Kansas State. You get West Virginia, Texas Tech, Texas, Baylor, and Iowa State there to finish the season off. But right now, you got to be feeling pretty darn good, 6-0, and play at the moment. ACC. Let's talk a little ACC right now. The Cuse, my Cuse, baby. Syracuse defense kicking NC State, who has just struggled all year to figure out the offense. I mean, this has been an offense that's been kind of head stretching for those who have followed NC State for the past couple of years, how they have not been able to find success on that side of the football. Found a way to escape a win last week for Florida State, and Syracuse this entire year has found ways to win on the defensive side of the football. And it's been really fun to see, especially as a guy who kind of secretly likes Syracuse, see them continue to find ways, especially with Garrett Schrader just giving the ball away. I mean, Syracuse could have run away with this game in the first half. And Garrett kind of had some pretty bad interceptions that could have essentially taken 3, 6, 9 or plus points off the board for the Cuse. Sean Tucker went out for an injury with a little bit, but as soon as Sean Tucker got back in the football game and got a completion and got a first down and got the run game going again, all of a sudden you're like, okay, Syracuse is back in the driver's seat. And then Gadsden with another incredible performance at the receiving position, 8 catches, 141 yards, 2 touchdowns. But once again, the story of the day was just how good the Syracuse defense has been performing this year. Been one of the best defenses in the ACC, and they better be ready because next week they're going to be facing Clemson. And who would have thought we have been saying middle of the season we would be having the game of the week in the ACC, undefeated Syracuse traveling to undefeated Clemson, who themselves kind of was in control this weekend versus Florida State. Florida State, just like I said earlier, with a lot of teams versus Alabama, came out swinging versus Clemson, came out swinging versus the big dog in the first half. The big turning point was really that fumble, the strip sack fumble right before halftime. Clemson was able to punch it in for a touchdown to take a big lead. They came out and kind of really separated themselves there in the third quarter. It's good to see Florida State continue to fight. We've seen that in games this year where they don't give up in the fourth quarter. But Clemson was just, like I said, I think we always talk about like the end of halves and the beginning of third quarters being so critical when it comes to momentum and the energy in a stadium. And to get that 7 points there before halftime after the turnover and then the score first in the third quarter just kind of deflated the crowd. It deflated Florida State and Clemson, which we've seen not so great wins this year. And we've kind of had some moments where like, okay, how good is this defense? It's defense as elite as we thought they would be. Listen, they find ways to win the football games. And at the end of the day, that's all that matters. You're in the ACC. If you win your conference and you're undefeated, you're going to be in the playoffs. And I think right now that's all they care about. Like, they're not going to get the style points. They don't have the offense to do that. Once again, their defense isn't as elite as we thought. They're very good. Don't get me wrong. They're a top 10, 15 defense in the country. They're not maybe top 5 that they're expecting. Breesy was back. He's been out for a little bit. He's got to continue to get his legs underneath him. I think that's going to be big as he continues to get in game shape. But you look at their schedule, man, if they can get past Syracuse next weekend, at Notre Dame, who's playing better football, Louisville, Miami, then South Carolina, should be pretty smooth sailings to that ACC championship game for the Clemson Tigers. So big win for them in the ACC. We'll go one more big time game in this weekend, and I'm going to go to Oklahoma versus Kansas. This game moved at the last second up to 10 points. Was right around that 7.5 heading into kickoff. Kansas quarterback was ruled out just before the game, and Oklahoma offensively looked like we thought they would look like. Dylan Gabriel was back from injury and kind of had one of his better games. Just looked good early on. Even before the injury, Dylan Gabriel was a little erratic at times, a little high, not really in command of the football. You saw him in more command early on in this football game. They still struggled on defense. I mean, this is still a defense in Oklahoma that gave up 42 points to Kansas and a backup quarterback. And Jason Bean is proven himself as a legitimate backup quarterback in this country and in college football. But still, he's the backup quarterback making his first start on the road, and he threw for 265 yards and 4 touchdowns. Oklahoma, it got to be better on defense. And it's 7 games into the season. You're more than halfway through the year, and you're not getting any better on that side of the football. That is very, very concerning as you look at their schedule going forward and the offenses they have to face. This is still going to be a team that is going to be in a lot of close contests that are still, to my mind right now, at 4-3, probably going to end the season around 7-5. Not a great year, but you know what? You beat a ranked team. Kansas was number 9 heading into this game. You won a ranked game, and you didn't have a losing record. That's a big word. You're 3-3. Imagine being 3-4 and you lost to Kansas and you're Oklahoma. You did not want to wake up to those headlines tomorrow if you were a Sooner. So congratulations for them getting a big time win. Kentucky, hit on them real quick. Kentucky looked great for Mississippi State. Defensively, they showed up, played a tremendous game, really an extremely low scoring game. Was 3-3 heading into halftime. They found a way to slow down that aerial attack and Will Rogers. Will Levis was so. The running game got going. I think that was the biggest thing, which is a little bit surprising. Chris Rodriguez, 196 yards rushing. Mississippi State is big and physical up front on defense, and they just kind of got out physicaled. And we're talking about the worst rushing attack in all of the SEC, 92 yards per game rushing, went in there and had their best rushing attack this game. So that's a good sign for Kentucky that they're getting back to the style of football that they want to be: physical, dominate the line of scrimmage, and they look like that tonight. So great overall weekend, man. Lots of great football. If you missed it, find a way to watch the clips. We appreciate y'all jumping with us. Late night snaps. And T-Bob and I will be back with you on Monday as we get ready for hopefully another great weekend of college football. See y'all.